Alright, hi guys. Welcome to another week of interactive level design. My name is Richard, and I'm working with Clever Endeavour Games to make this game Ultimate Chicken Horse, which you should see on your screen now if everything's going right. Maybe not. I'm just gonna check. There we go. So you should see a little poster there, thanks to our awesome artist, Kyler. And yeah, so our game is a 2D platformer where you build the level as you play, and you try to set up traps and stuff for your enemies or for your friends, I guess, to make sure that they can't get to the end of the level while you can. Um, it's a interesting kind of dynamic because it plays between the platforming elements and the strategic sort of planning elements. I'm going to show you guys. Usually, what we do for the interactive level design is we talk about, well, I designed some levels for the one-player mode, which is a puzzle level where you're given certain blocks and platforms. You have to figure out where to place them to get to the end of the level. So usually what we've done is I've designed some levels and asked for people's input and changed the level accordingly. And I've sort of justified my level design decisions. I'm just going to show you guys a bit of the multiplayer version of the game, and then hop into the one-player a little bit, and then we'll get to the level design part. So I just wanted to do a mini sort of let's play so you guys can see some of the gameplay. I was supposed to be doing it with a friend, but then he had to go, so in the end I'm just going to do the multiplayer version alone because I have no friends, but no, because he left. So let me just try and open that up quickly. Let us see. Game is better with a controller, but if you guys do want, if you want to try out the game, we have an alpha build and it's ready to go, so that's the one I'm going to be playing today. So if you want it, let us know by email or anywhere else, and we will get you a build of the game. Alright, so I'm going to show you a bit of playing of the game. So I'm going to open up the game. Let's see now. I'm going to see if it works on full screen. I just want to make sure I mute it so that you guys can hear me and not the game. Let's see. Right, what's going to happen? I'm just checking on the side because I have myself sort of monitoring myself. Alright, so here we go. So this is the game. I'm going to show you the versus mode. I'm just waiting to hear if the audio is super loud and that you can't hear me. But should be okay. Give it 1 second. There's a delay, so when I talk, you guys hear it a little while later. Alright, seems like we're good. Okay, so in the versus mode, or the multiplayer mode, we take turns placing blocks in the level and running through the level. So at the beginning, we'll see the beginning flag is here. The end is over here. So you can see there's a pretty big gap that we have to get by. So at the beginning, we each place a bunch of blocks, each being the horse and the chicken. So you can see the horse hoof is the thing that's being used now, and you can see at the top there's, right next to where the webcam is, there's the horse building card. I guess it's kind of being covered. Anyway, so I open up the inventory and I can choose from any number of blocks. We have a whole bunch of different blocks in the inventory. There's going to be many, many more, but for now let's place a basic platform here. So now it's going to be the chicken's turn. You'll see the chicken phase, well again the webcam's blocking it, but you'll see the chicken's turn to place. So maybe he'll place something, another platform. The horse will do the same. Maybe put a spiky ball of death, and then there's all sorts of cool blocks that we can use here. So I'm just going to go and throw a bunch of them into the level. what else should I put? Let's put a smaller platform. And now it's the horse's turn to run. So now you can see um, it's turn-based, and we're gonna try. Sorry, we're gonna try to see what happens if we have both people run at once, because that's could be a kind of interesting game dynamic. It's something we're gonna test soon. But at this point, we have like block placing phase, and then we have the running phase. So as the horse, I'm gonna try and get through this level. You can also wall jump. And there we go. And now I get to the end of the level. Now as the chicken, or the other player, if you happen to die, like this, then you'll see the horse gets a point. So that's basically how the game works, and then from there you go and you make the level harder. So maybe, or it could be easier depending on how hard you made it in the first place, but let's say maybe we'll put some spikes here. Now the chicken's going to go, and he might have a hard time. Yeah. But now the horse has to go in the same configuration, so the horse placed those spikes, and he has to try and figure out, apparently you can do it. Alright, score one more for the horse. Now, of course, this is more interesting when you have two people. You can play, if you do get the alpha version, you can play, or if you ask us for the alpha version, you can play with one controller, passing it back and forth, or you can play with two controllers, or you can play with keyboard. It's really up to you. So I'm going to place another block here. So this is a block that, well, you can see what it does. There's a lot of unique blocks, and they all do sort of different things. As the development of the game continues, there'll just be more and more blocks added. So now you saw both people successfully got to the end, so that means that no one gets a point. So your goal is to make it hard enough that your friend can't make it to the end, but that you can. Now let's try and make this a little bit harder, because I think it was made too easy. So how about this? So that's going to shoot tennis balls, as you can probably see there. These tennis balls are flying by, and I'm not sure how to get up here. Alright, how about... Nope, that's not going to work either. So then, if ever you make the level too difficult, you can use this bomb to destroy one of the things. It will destroy things within a certain radius, but I don't want to do that now because it's not that hard. So how about this? Okay, maybe it is that hard. There we go. Horse at it again. Yeah, so you saw the horse got to the end, and then it was the chicken's turn, and he did not successfully make it to the end, so so the horse got a point. I think the horse is probably going to win this game, but let's try and make the level a little bit more interesting again. Alright, fail. Let's try this again. So you see that door opens and closes, and when it's open, when it's open, the tennis balls go through. When it's closed, obviously they stop. Alright, 1 point away for the horse. We may change the maximum, or the default amount of points. There's a lot of things we're going to be testing out. Let's put this here. So that is, it's a fan platform that moves up and down. I think it went off the screen. Oh yeah, there we go. Problem is, if you hit the bottom of it where the blades are, then you die. So it's kind of a hazard as well as a platform. Maybe I want to make this more difficult, so I'll place some spikes on that block. Makes it more difficult. Oh boy. Oh boy. You can actually wall jump off these, so I kind of just saved myself. But those would be advanced techniques. that you will learn in due time. Alright, let's go. Horse time. Oh. Alright, so both people made it. So this is basically the multiplayer version. There's even more stuff. Arrows. Why not make life even more difficult for us? Oh boy. Now the cool thing is that all of this is going to be customizable. So the number of blocks you're placing, the blocks types that you're placing, the number of points it takes to win, really anything you can think of is customizable. So the multiplayer version is going to be really, our goal is to make it kind of like a game that is, there are either random elements where it becomes sort of fun and silly and people who are not necessarily as good can still win, or very skill-based and very competitive, and people who are really at the same level can have really fierce competition based on things that are almost purely skill-based. And right now I am not showing skill-based anything. Oh boy. That's what happens when you go too fast. Let's see what else I can add. How about this? So that's a block that flips up and down, and oops. So that block disappears after a while. This doesn't look like a safe spot. Oh, it's safe for a second. Maybe I'll wait for this. Yeah, so that block flips, and you can only stand on it when it's the right way. Alright, now I kind of want to finish this level, so I'm just going to die. Sorry, chicken. And then the horse dances like an awesome horse that he is. And then we have the next level. So the next level we see the flag's down here. We have to go around this waterfall, and we have to go up to the flag in the top corner, which I hope you can see. I guess you probably can't see because the webcam thing's in the way. But anyway, believe me, it's in the top left corner. I'm not going to go through this level because I just played that one and want to keep things interesting and exciting. So I'm going to go to the main menu, and I'm going to show you a bit of the puzzle levels. Now the puzzle levels don't have any art in them yet, as you'll see shortly. So this is just a place to test out controls. And you can just run around and do whatever you like. So now this is the first level, so there isn't really background art. I mean, there's this graph paper stuff that I've set up. And in this game, in the one-player mode, you are given certain blocks and figure out where to place them. So your inventory, you see there's only one block. Now in this level, it's fairly straightforward, I would think. You can run, you can jump, and you can get to the end of the level. So then we make it a little bit more complicated. We add some hazard in the middle, and then we have two blocks. Again, fairly straightforward. The next thing that happens, so one of the important things, considering that we're discussing this in terms of interactive level design and in terms of actual level design, the goal is to introduce mechanics, and especially in the first 1 to, say, 20 or so levels, we're really focusing on introducing new mechanics to the player. Given that this game is about giving you platforms and some huge inventory of blocks, we need to make sure that those blocks are properly introduced, especially so that when you play the multiplayer version, you will know what the blocks are. Now, granted, there's some people who will play the multiplayer version without ever touching the single player, but for the most part, people will try the single player, and then hopefully they'll get introduced to these blocks, and they'll be like, oh, okay, I know how all these things work. Now there's no overwhelming feeling of like, what do I do with all this inventory? So in this level, the mechanic we're introducing is the long jump, so the run and jump. So you do get a platform. Obviously you can't make that jump, but you get a platform, and you'll be prompted in some way. I mean, it's not there now, but you'll be prompted in some way that X is to run. And then you'll have to, if you jump without running, you'll notice that happens. If you run with jumping, or sorry, if you jump without running, now if you jump with running, then you land on the thing. So the levels are designed to introduce these kind of mechanics. The next thing is going to be a bit of a more difficult simple platformer in the sense of, just jumping from platform to platform, but a little more difficult because there's more things to avoid. Now the next one, this is going to be the last one I'll do, I think, and then I'll skip ahead to another game, another level in Unity. But so this one is trying to introduce a new mechanic. So let's say we have this block. You can rotate blocks. So you place it here or so, then you can't get up. You can wall jump, but let's hold the suicide button for a second, because yes, there is a suicide button. And so clear the blocks. So the goal of this level is to show you wall jumping. So hopefully you can see that you'd get this kind of thing happening. And the levels continue, and they get more complicated, and they introduce new mechanics as they go along. So I'm just going to quit out of this game, because I don't want to show you all the levels just yet. And I'm going to pop open Unity. I'll just show you one of the harder levels that maybe will appear a bit more interesting and certainly more difficult. Alright, so in this level, you're given more different types of blocks, and it's smaller on the screen, sorry about that, but you're given all sorts of things. So you want to get from the green to the red. You have to get by these hazards, these two cannon shooters, these giant spinning tires with nails on them, these huge bundle of arrow shooters, fire hydrants, but there's a key up here that you can get to open this to get a bit of a shortcut down into semi-pit of death and semi-ending. So I'm going to try it, and you get 4 blocks. You get a 1x1, a 1x2, a 1x3, and a 1x4. Now you can use these things to block projectiles, as I'm going to do here. You can use them to block cannons if you want. You can use them really in whichever way you want. I'm thinking, I'm not really sure honestly, maybe I'll do this, and I'll try to wall jump off the one that's off this wall here. I don't really know, honestly. We're going to have to see what happens. Maybe I'll use this to block these cannon shooters. And then this one I'm going to use to try to get up to the key. So I'm going to put that there. Oh, or I could just die. Let's try this a bit better. Alright, so it's a little bit hard to see the chicken maybe. But I'm going to try to... Okay, that worked out pretty well. If you are watching this, this will be one of the secrets that you'll get, that you'll see in the stream. So when you do get the game, if you do get the game, which I hope you will, then you'll know how to do this level. Alright, we see that little like tennis ball bouncing up from the bottom. That's something we want to avoid. And whoa, nice. Okay. So that's just an example of a little bit more complicated level. There's a few different ways to go. There's a few choices you have to make. And yeah, that's about that. So that will conclude the sort of playing part of the session of the stream. And what I'd like to talk about a little bit is pacing in levels and level design, especially in this kind of game where you do have to introduce new mechanics all the time. We're talking about pacing, and one of the things that I noticed when we were first playtesting, just the team was playtesting, one of the first things that I noticed was that we were running through the levels, and I was able to do the levels quite easily because I had been building them and practicing them over and over. But other people, my teammates, were saying, level 5 is way easier than level 4, and level 7 is like impossible, but I could do level 8 and 9. And we didn't really realize or didn't really think about it, but the pacing is extremely important, and we didn't really think about, or I guess I didn't really think about, introducing mechanics slowly. I was kind of like, oh, you can do a wall jump, which means now you can do triple wall jump off the same wall while avoiding spikes while arrows are shooting at your face. And that's not exactly how it works. So what I then did before this alpha, before we built the alpha, was I went over the levels and I reviewed and I changed sort of the order of things. And I added them all, you can see in this folder, which I called new levels. So I have my puzzles and I have a bunch of old levels. And we're probably still going to use them, but we're just going to place them in somewhere a little bit more carefully. So in new levels, I have um, I have I have them numbered, but then you'll notice, I'm not sure if you can see it on your screen. You probably can't, but anyway, I have them numbered, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. But then I find things that go in between, like in between 5 and 6, so I'm calling it 5B. I'm going to call them 5B, 5C, etc. as we place them in. I think what we're going to end up doing is after a certain number of levels, so right now it's up to 20, plus some extra levels that are much harder, but up to level 20 or so, we'll just be introducing mechanics. So when I say just introducing mechanics, it doesn't mean it's not going to be fun and you're just going to be like, oh look, here's a block that collapses, jump on it. No, it's not quite like that, but there's the main focus of the level is going to be to introduce a certain mechanic. Now, as you're introducing new mechanics, you're also going to be using old ones. So let's say wall jumping. Well, in one level, we're going to introduce wall jumping with collapsing blocks, let's say. So in level 5, we introduce wall jumping. In level 9, we introduce collapsing blocks. And then in level 10, you'll see, I'll just play this quickly. In level 10, you'll see that we have a few blocks here. There's collapsing blocks, and there's also going to be some wall jumping that's probably necessary. Now in this case there wasn't much, it depends how you set it up, but the idea is that the level's set up for wall jumping and for collapsing blocks. So we're making sure to keep it interesting, obviously, but at the same time introducing new mechanics. So I figure the first bunch of levels will be like that, and then afterwards we're just going to start to get crazy. As we build crazier levels, we'll have to slip them in between ones that already exist. That's natural. But and we're also going to be creating new blocks, right? So we have a whole bunch of other block ideas. Right now we have, I don't know, probably 15 or so, 18. We're going to have, I'm not going to promise any numbers, but I don't know, 30 or 40 or so different types of blocks. So there's going to be a lot more that you can do with these puzzle levels. So in terms of actual game production for developers who are listening, our plan is more to work on the block ideas, not as much the levels. And then once all the blocks are designed, then we're going to start doing levels because we're going to see what interesting ways we can set up these levels. So what I'm going to do today is we're just going to make a level that is fun and interesting, and it's going to be based on the mechanics that we have now. And really, hopefully you guys can give some input on this. We're just going to design a level together. We're not going to try to introduce any specific mechanics. We're not going to try to force the player into doing any specific things. We're just going to try and make really interesting levels that are different given the tools that we have. So I just copy pasted level 1. I'm going to call it Twitch level for now. I'm going to open that up, and then we're going to work on this level. So right now the level is the same as the as level 1 because I just copy pasted it, obviously. The reason I copy pasted it is just because I have all these colliders and everything's in place already. So this is what the level looks like now. It is level 1, and that's that. When you get to the end, it'll take you to level 2. So what we want to do is make some crazy stuff, and it can be rather difficult because we really are not restricted at this point by needing to say, okay, well, it's going to be a set level. In the alpha build that we have already, we have levels 1 through 20 or so, and then 32, 37, 43, 67. So you can see it's jumping pretty fast, which is why if you play the alpha, you'll notice like everything's fine and dandy, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is way more difficult than I thought. And the last level people have beaten, but is quite difficult. So I obviously challenge you guys to beat that. All right, so let's start making a level. If you guys have ideas, throw them out there. If I say things and then those give you ideas, you can throw those out there too. I'm actually going to open up Photoshop here. So we do have a bit of a canvas that we can use to draw out some ideas. So what I'm thinking would be kind of interesting in terms of forcing the player to do things would be timing wall jumps. So you know, sliding down a wall. Here, I'll show you what I mean. Let's say you started here. So you started up here, and you had to jump. I'm just completely making this up. I have no idea what I'm really talking about. We're going to see what happens. So this is all spikes. Not very good spikes, but they're spikes. So you would jump down, and you'd have to slide along this wall. Right? I'll use green color because green is awesome. So yeah, so you would have to jump and then slide down the wall here. Now it'd be interesting to add some sort of timing element to that, which is that you'd need to slide, and either you could have to jump to somewhere else, or you'd have to keep jumping up the same wall and then slide down. I think that could be a kind of interesting mechanic, and the thing that would make you do that would be you could have some projectile shooters here, here, and here that are timed properly so that you can't just slide down and pass through all of them. Like they would be shooting either too fast or at the wrong time. So it would make you have to time yourself a little bit with that. What next? What else is interesting? So let's not put anything down here because we can give the player blocks that they can use. I also do like the idea of really leaving levels fairly open. So at the beginning, there's a lot more closedness in the levels. The reason is because we're really forcing players into certain mechanics. So we're saying, okay, well, you need to wall jump. So you need to make it so they can't place blocks that will avoid wall jumping. They have to place blocks that will force them to wall jump. So I like the idea of leaving it a little bit open and letting the player kind of figure it out. So maybe we can add some more projectiles. So I like this mechanic of sort of sliding down the wall and jumping, the thing that's in green now. Maybe we have a couple of projectiles and then another couple of projectiles. And we want the player to get to a flag that's over here. And part of the level design, an important part of the level design, is definitely going to be what you're actually giving the player, because we get to give the player whatever we want, and we could give them all tiny blocks, or we could give them, you know, big easy platforms, or we could give them, you can even give them, we have a block that's like a block with a spike on the end, so that's something that's spinning around. We could give them that too, because people have to jump on this block. So that's going to be completely up to us. So let's see what we want to do. Maybe we use this as a starting point, and then we'll go into Unity, and we'll go from there. Let's try it. So first things first, how wide do we want the level to be? So right now the level is as wide as you can see. I think that should be okay, but I'd like it to be taller, because right now it's not very tall. And in our Photoshop drawing, you can see we have a decent amount. We want to be able to slide down that wall and so on. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the camera collider, which is an object which bounds the camera and makes sure that the camera stays within whatever area you tell it to stay in. We're going to make that taller. We're just going to stretch this out a little bit. So now the camera collider, you can't see it here, but the camera collider, well, if I do this, now it goes all the way down to here and all the way up to here. Might be a little bit too big, I think, because you're not going to see a lot of the level. So let's bring that down just a bit. Let's go to 20, 26. Let's try that. So let's see. This looks a little better, still probably a little big in my opinion. 22. Let's do that. Okay, I think that's a little better. Alright, so let's set up the beginning part. We're going to move the start up to, let's see where the camera collider goes. Camera collider only goes up to here. So this thing we're going to put back to 1. Camera collider goes here, so I don't know if you can see this green line. It's there, right there. So that's as high as the camera's going to go. So we can have ourselves start quite close to that. And we can just move our colliders. So green is a collider that people can stand on, wall jump off. It's a regular, what you'd call, I guess, a regular collider. The blue is a boundary, which means it's going to be, you can't wall jump off it or anything. It's basically just the end. So it's where you can't go any further. So we're gonna align our stuff to the grid. Now everything has to be aligned to the grid. This is something that has to be stressed because we want to make sure that when people are placing blocks, their blocks are not going to seem like they're floating off the alignment of the level. And because the whole game is basically creation and editing levels, everything's assigned to a grid. So we want to make sure that we stick within that grid so that we don't annoy everyone, including ourselves. Let's move this up a little bit. Alright, so this gives us a bit of the, well, sort of beginning of that sliding thing that we were talking about. My camera collider's here, so I'll put this here for now. So now you can see start is up there, the ending is just floating there. We're going to have a bunch of open space on the left here, and over here we're going to have some projectiles shooting things. So I'm going to make another collider. Make it skinny, and I'm going to make it really tall. Not quite that tall. Actually, yes, quite that tall. Alright. We're going to align this to the grid. Although, actually, something that should be noted: if we do want to have the arrows, if we do want to have arrow shooters, so I'll show you just quickly. Arrow shooter is here. If we do want to have the arrow shooter, if we put it here, there'll be no problem because we can see what happens. The problem is that you can jump on it, and then that kind of defeats the whole purpose because you can just do that. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to break up the collider, because if you put this here, you'll see it's going to try and shoot, but it's going to hit the wall because it's colliding with the wall. Right? So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to break this one up into some pieces. Where's my thing? Here we go. Into some pieces and break it up like that. So let's do this. And you can see, if you see that it's like kind of off the grid, that's something that's important to note, because the way that our blocks are set up is so that the center of the block is on a corner, is on an intersection of the grid. For example, if I bring this in, the center is really here. So we want to make sure that the center is going to line up like this or like this. It's not like the box actually fits within a box, if that makes any sense. Alright, so let's get rid of that. Move our arrow shooter up to here. So as long as it's not colliding, we're fine. I'm going to recess it a little bit into the wall so that we don't end up being able to stand on it. And this one I'm actually going to make a little wider because we don't want to be able to stand on it on either side. So, alright, so this goes high enough, that's no problem. Now, we're going to try a couple of these. Now the thing is, we're going to have to play with the timing, the intervals, and the timing of these arrow shooters. Otherwise, it's going to end up being so that you can just fall right through. And chances are, the first time we do it, that's exactly what's going to happen. That you can just slide right through, or you can just, you know, avoid them really easily. But part of the joys of level design is testing and trying things over and over, because sometimes that'll just work better. Alright, so let's line up these arrow shooters. So now this way, on either side, you shouldn't be able to jump off the arrow shooter or use it as a platform or anything. Let's try this again. Block. Of course, like I said before, the art is not final, so we're working with this graph paper, and the colliders are all visible, so the walls eventually will not be colliders, obviously. I mean, will not be visible colliders, they'll be things that look like walls. But at this point, it's better to set everything up in terms of just the colliders, and you know, the art doesn't have to be good for it to be fun. At this point, what we're going to do, we don't want to end up, from a production standpoint, we don't want to end up drawing all sorts of assets and making all sorts of images for the boundaries and for the walls in the levels, and then decide that we're turning around and changing them. So instead of wasting that time, we're just going to do everything in a basic sort of ugly way. Although some people have said they like the graph paper thing, so who knows. Alright, so what's going to happen now? We'll see these are all timed the same. So, okay, so you can't just slide down, but can you, actually, to be honest, that might be that might be better than expected. The question is if you can fall down and avoid all of them, which it seems you can. So if you'll notice, I'm kind of dying without touching anything. That's this red thing. The red thing is the hazard. That means it's an area that's essentially like, you know, if you fall between the pipes in Mario or anything, you just fall to your death. So that's what this is. The thing is, this obviously has to be off screen, because if it's on screen, then you get that weird feeling of having a death animation without realizing why you're dying. So if you just look at that again, so now you'll see I just fall into nothingness. I should probably put this down here for now. Alright, so what this just showed is that you can actually drop through them without having to time yourself, so that means there's an issue there. Now we can make them faster, that's one thing. So we can go into here, and the way the scripting is set up is there's a script associated with these arrow shooters, and they have values like initial delay, interval, etc. So if we make the interval 0.6, it might be really difficult. Let's try. So you'll see, yeah, a little faster. There we go. So that was kind of lucky, I'm not gonna lie. Let's try that again. Yeah, so I'm not sure you could actually get through. No, it doesn't seem that you could get through without timing yourself. Problem is, so as you're seeing, it seems to take, like in that case, I just went through to the right and to the left. It takes a little bit of luck, it seems. That's not what we want to do here. What we want to do is we want to make it so that you can actually slide along the wall and jump back up again. So we're going to space these out a little bit more, and we can even, yeah, so we're going to try and space these out a little bit more. Let's make this 5, down here, 7.53, bring this down, make this 5 as well. -5, -3. I'm just going to move this. Actually, you know what? I'm not. Just going to do that for a second, and then I'm going to bring it back when we're actually playing with the level, because otherwise it's going to just be really annoying and confusing. So, given that, let's put this arrow shooter here, 7, 6. So I hope you guys do understand why I'm doing this. It's not just, there's an actual reason for it. The reason is because we want to get the player to slide down the wall a little bit and then jump up, and then slide down the wall a little bit and then jump up. So let's do this again. I think I was missing something. Yeah, let's turn these back on. Kind of necessary. So let's just put this at the bottom of the level. Now, okay, I just died. There we go. So now I'm kind of timing myself with my jumping. Can wall jump off the same wall, and then have to do the same thing again. The nice thing though is that, so in the first one it's not so hard. It's not easy, but it's not so hard. The question is, can you fall down straight without getting hit by anything? The answer seems to be yes. Let's try it again. Yeah. Alright, so we're going to want to fix that. There's a couple of ways of doing that. Let's just see one more time. Okay, let's not be so bad at this. Yeah, so it really depends. The falling thing is a little bit random, right? Or it feels a little random. If you just jump and fall straight down, chances are you're not going to make it, but there's a possibility that you do. So if we want to remedy that, why don't we actually change the interval of some of these other guys, or even change the interval to a little bit less. Maybe, yeah, so this middle one should be the sort of hard one, because the middle one is where you have all of the wall. I'll try to indicate this, like this part here is you have all this place to jump off the wall and try and time yourself. So that this arrow shooter I think should be the hardest one. The next one you have a little bit less wall to work with. Although actually, you know what? Why don't we make this a little bit bigger? 2.5. Then you have a bit more wall to work with, and we can make this one equally difficult. Or in fact, why don't we make it more difficult? Okay, so 0.4. Now, this might be impossible. That's what level testing is about. So let's see. Right, so I can wall jump off here to try and time myself to slide through here. And now this one, yeah, I think that's impossible. So let's make this 0.5 as well. But what I'm going to do is the interval will be the same, but there's going to be a delay. So the delay will be maybe 0.25. So then it should be sort of trading with the projectile shooter above it in terms of timing. So let's try this again. So I gotta let myself slide down further to be able to do this. Let's also check the falling. If we just fall, is that going to be safe? And the answer is I'm not doing this very well. Okay, so there is a way to get through it, but I don't think it's very likely that it's going to work. Alright, maybe it is kind of likely that it's going to work. Um, hmm. All right. Well, there's another thing we can do here if we want. Is that, well, we can, first of all, we can make this one a little more difficult. But what we could do, I have an idea, but I think it's a little bit too evil. Um, hmm. Let's see. Right, so that did work, surprisingly. And actually getting up worked too. But I guess it depends if people want to spend 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tries to get through this without dying. The other thing is that I think you have to move side to side to do that. So if we just go straight down one, like horizontal, vertically, let's see what happens here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you go straight vertically, you're not going to get through. So to make sure people do that, why don't we just be mean and do this? Stick one of these. Stick one of these here. Yeah, maybe here. Or even here. And the idea with that is that then people will be able to, you'll still be able to time yourself. Oh, I forgot to do something. Gotta make it kinematic. Alright. So the idea here is that when we're designing this level, we want to make sure that people aren't just going to like fall through the middle. But at the same time, we have to make sure they can still do the purpose, which is this timed wall jumping. So that's fine, but then they have to be really careful over there about jumping into the spike. So is it difficult? Yes. Is it too difficult? I don't think so, because it's possible. I'm just not very good at it. Alright, last try. I guess it's good if you know that your game has that feeling of like, okay, one more try. Alright, I got it. Perfect. So, done. So that works for me. Now we're going to make this one a little bit shorter because we want the player to be able to get through underneath, of course. 7.5, negative 7.5. So in case you guys are just joining us or haven't been here the whole time, what we're working on is level design for the one-player mode of our game, Ultimate Chicken Horse, which is a 2D platformer where you're given blocks that you put into the level and try and make it to the end. So right now we're making a fairly difficult level, and that's that. We're making a fairly difficult level. So at the exit, or the ending flag, let's just make a tiny little surface. Don't want to be too generous now, do we? And what do we say we're going to do? So let's go back to our little Photoshop image here. We said, okay, we've done this part. We've done the part on the right. We want to put these 4 projectiles, and then we're going to give the player some different options. So let's set up these projectiles. So the camera collider we see is here, or I see is here. I don't know if you guys can see it. And we're going to put some. Well, unless we want to do cannons. Yeah, let's do some cannons. So here we're going to turn this upside down. And so the cannon, the difference between the cannon and the arrow shooter is the cannon shoots out at 45 degrees and also has gravity, so the tennis ball will kind of arc, whereas the arrow shooter just goes straight. So let's put this here. Let's put another one here. Once they're set up, I'm going to line them up afterward. So tennis ball shooter. I don't know if I've been calling it a cannon or a tennis ball, but anyway, don't worry about it. So this is going to be 0. Oops. Where's the camera collider down here? All right. So let's just see what this looks like once you start. Once we get here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to start over here so that I can kind of see. I'm also going to give us, so I can choose which blocks we're being given. So I'm going to give us, let's say, 3 that are all the same type, that all this 4x4. Reason I'm doing this is just so that I can see what this section of the level looks like. Alright, so let's see what happens. Whoa. Okay. Okay, there isn't a lot of safe space. And I'm only using regular platforms, so there's something happening here. Alright, I'm in a safe spot, I think. I do like this. I think it's a little bit ridiculous, but I like it. And the important thing is that we're going to be giving the player platforms, right? So they can choose how they want to go about approaching the level. I found another safe spot, I think. Actually, this whole thing is safe. Alright, great. And then I need to make those things stay in their place, clearly. Okay, great. So let's line this up. So the camera collider's here. We're going to want to line this up so that you can see, well, so you can see the thing. So let's put it at -7 and 10.7. So we'll go at 1 and 10.7. Camera collider is here. So that's fine. Let's put this. Put it here so you can still see, again, like you can see what's going on. -15.5, 0. This will be -15.5 and -8. Okay, so we have our difficult part of our level. Or actually, I guess the beginning is probably more difficult. And now the important part is we're going to try and figure out what we're giving to the player. So that's going to be the main level design aspect here, I think, is what we're giving to the player. So we have a whole bunch of options. We've got those blocks, spike spinny block things that I was talking about. We've got springs, which are always useful but really annoying because you jump on them and you go flying, and then you go flying into cannonballs. There are doors. Doors could be an interesting one because the door opens on intervals, and if you place that, you can land on the top of the door. Here, let me show you. With a door. So the door opens at intervals. Let's just put these wherever. So when it opens, the things go through, and when it closes, the things don't go through. So maybe that could be a good idea for the cannonball or the tennis ball section, because then it means, okay, you're using the door to block some of the tennis balls, but it's not going to help you all that much because the tennis balls are going to go in every time it opens up. So why don't we do that? Let's give them a couple of doors. Again, we're going to try this. Let's give them a couple of doors. Let's give them a spring. We want to have something at the bottom here, right? So you want to be able to have something to land on. So why don't we? Here, let's give them a bunch of blocks, but instead of giving them a bunch of really nice blocks, we be evil and give them a bunch of terrible blocks. So I'm kind of feeling spinning, we're calling it this spinning death. Kind of feeling this. So here's your inventory. You got 2 doors, you got a spring, you got 2 of these spiky death balls, and you have this one platform. So the one platform I'm going to use, assuming we're landing down here, The spring I'll use probably here. Before we do that, let's make this a little bit shorter, because we're noticing it's going to be really hard to jump. It's going to be really hard to jump over to wherever you're placing your next block. So, also should keep in mind the way that these levels are being designed is usually with a certain solution in mind. But every time I've seen people play the game, they find new and different solutions that are either easier or harder than what I've done. Some cases they make the level super, super hard, and then they manage to finish it. And I'm like, I never would have finished the level in that configuration, but like, I guess if that's what you can do, then great. Yeah, my inventory screen disappeared. That's okay. So I'm going to pick a door now. We have all these cannonball things to stop. So maybe I'll start from the end. And I'll pick one of these. That's going to stop. The problem is if I put it here, I can't really point at the screen because you guys aren't going to see that. If I put it here, then it'll block this shooter, but I think I'm right in the line of fire of this guy. So maybe if I put it up here, it should still do the same thing, but maybe I won't be in the other guy's line of fire. Okay, so sorry, the inventory is being buggy. That's okay. Let's put this here, so it'll block that one. Let's put this, I don't even know where. Well, let's put it up here, because the spring should get us pretty high up. Actually, the spring and wall jumping should get us pretty high up, so maybe we can get up to, this can be used to block this, and this can be placed in the middle here. Let's see what actually happens, because I actually have no idea. I'm also using a keyboard because I didn't want to turn the controller on, so that's not helping the case. Ooh, wow, got through it. Okay, so the cool thing is we can wall jump here. The not so cool thing is that we have to get over to where that spiky ball is, and that was just badly done because I wasn't running. Now, the chances that I'm going to get back down here easily are not likely. This is why I need people to play test, because I'm not as good at this game as some other people that I've seen play it. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I don't expect to be the best player of the game that I'm designing, but alright, let's give it a few more shots. Nice, okay. Nope. I just got through all the difficult part, and then I died by just falling off the edge. Hopefully this is exciting for you guys. Alright, so, spring, here we go. Alright, safe for a second. Now what's the next step? I guess on top of that door on the left, I can probably land. And then the next step will be on the block, but I have to time myself with this spinning saw and with the tennis balls that are shooting to my left, and oh boy. Nice, okay. So we have a horse guy standing on a door. Now I can get up to that next spinning spiky thing. I just have to avoid both of these tennis balls. No, I avoided both the tennis balls, but I didn't avoid the spike. Okay, one last shot. Well, one last shot once I get through this part, and then we will call it a day, because I think this is a decently interesting level, and I'm sure there are easier ways to do it than what I'm doing. And yeah, that's about it. Okay, good. No, damn it. I'm trying to get lucky and just jump down this thing and not get hit by anything. Sometimes it works. Okay. Nope, 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 nope. Nope. I guess part of the fun of platformers is this amount that they're frustrating. Okay. I'm really just not doing well at this. Alright, last try. Hopefully you guys will bear with me. By last try, I mean last try that I get through this part. I feel like you guys are watching and being like, I could do this. And you probably could. Okay, really the only thing I have to look out for in this case is that spiky ball. Alright, well, either way I'm happy with this level. I don't have to be able to finish every level right away. I do know that it's possible, because I got to a point where I was one step away from finishing it. So I'm going to call this Twitch level. And yeah, so I think that'll conclude today's video. Again, as usual, I'll be posting this stuff on YouTube. Let's just stick this back up there for show. I'm going to be putting this up on YouTube. I'm a few weeks behind, so I'm uploading today. I'll probably upload the one from November 28th, so from 2 weeks ago. And then during the week, I'll upload the one from last week, which was, what, December 5th? And then probably next week. By next week, I'll have probably caught up and I'll have uploaded everything. And then after the holidays, when we start back with the Twitch streams, we're going to be doing probably different kind of streaming. We might do like work sessions, brainstorming activities. We might do some Let's Play or some gameplay. We might do any number of things. The reason I'm saying that is because we don't have. We might be putting off level design a little bit to work on the blocks. So that's where brainstorming ideas would come in, talking about all sorts of different things. So basically just general game dev, and hopefully if we're having meetings on Fridays, that's my goal. I haven't really talked to the team about it, but we can sort of showcase the development process and just be like, this is Clever Endeavour Games, this is how we make stuff. So that being said, check us out on Twitter and Facebook as well. You can go to our website. I'm just going to put the link here. And the Twitter handle is here as well. So you guys can check it out. For the YouTube people watching this on YouTube, the links will be in the description. And feel free to check us out. Feel free to send us an email if you want to try out the game. And that is it for my marketing spiel. So happy Friday and see ya.